Are you journeying through grief and needing a little extra support, inspiration, healing, and guidance? Join me in turning your losses into gains with the Losses Become Gains podcast. Hi, my friend. I'm Tara Accardo, creator of the Losses Become Gains online community, blog, and now podcast. I'm an only child who lost both parents to cancer within 6 months of each other, followed by my sweet fur baby soon after. After all of this, I knew I was meant to do more with what I had been through. And now that means encouraging and coaching grievers just like you. I'm a wife, friend, grieving daughter, writer, course creator, loss advocate turned grief coach, and I'm here to help support you and move you through your grief. I want for you to feel like I am your girlfriend in the grief space and know that whatever you're going through, there's someone out there who just gets it. Few topics are off limits here because grief and loss don't hold back either. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of what all this means for you and your healing journey. We'll dive into countless topics. I will give you all the coping tools and impactful mindset shifts to take you from just surviving to thriving after loss. We'll also touch on some fun lifestyle topics too, because we have big, beautiful, vibrant lives to live. So grab a cup of your favorite beverage, get comfortable, and show up with an open heart and mind. I am so glad you're here. I am so excited to welcome this guest today, you guys. I can't even tell you. In a moment, you'll get to meet Kera Sanchez, who is a mama of two and creator of Legacy Letters, a keepsake journal to leave behind love, advice, and support for future generations. And she's also a daughter sharing her grief journey with the world, much like myself. We found each other thanks to the Instagram gods and became fast friends and are really just kindred spirits in so many ways, especially because of our appreciation for some dark humor to get through and cope with our grief. She is honestly just so funny and easy to talk to, and her story is truly one you will not want to miss. There were even things that came up in this episode that I didn't even know yet about her story and are truthfully so heartbreaking, but I have no doubt are so relatable for so many of us. You won't want to miss hearing her absolutely beautiful mindset and perspective and how she handles the adversity that she has seen. And trust me, there is a lot of layers and depth to her story. So I just cannot wait for you to hear it. She's truly a cherished friend in this grief space. And I have no doubt her and her journal and her content will help you through your difficult times too. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right. Welcome, Kera, to the Losses Become Gains podcast. I'm so happy you're here today and so excited for this conversation. So just thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with us. I'm so excited.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad I made the first move over here and snuck into your DMs there.
My email. Yes. Well, I know we were joking. I was like, I feel like we're such kindred spirits in a way, and just with our stories and our kind of messages and just what we want to spread into the world.
Yeah.
Yes. All the things on social media and beyond really just align so well. And I mean, definitely one of the most impactful and most interesting parts of your story, I think for me, was obviously the loss of your mom. And I want you to be able to speak to all of that. But what honestly really struck me too was like when and how it happened or where it happened in Italy. And I have it made me so sad. I have such an affinity for Italy, and it's like just this, but I cannot even begin to imagine the association that you have with it now and how much of a trigger it might
be. Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, it's so funny because like I know that you talk about Italy a lot, and
I do. I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna hate me.
But it's not even like that. But like then I posted that video the other day of like my triggers and like Italy being one of them. But I don't see it necessarily in other people. It's more like for me, like I'm like, dang, if I ever go there, like that's all I'm going to think about the entire time. So, but yeah. So it's just kind of funny how we have that in common, but like the opposite, I guess.
Very
it's so
different ways.
Yes.
And what's so morbid about this that I just realized if anybody's watching this on YouTube is there's literally an Italy painting right in the back of me. So we'll just ignore this for right now.
I'll just wave at my mom.
Hey. Yeah, exactly. Hey, mom. Well, that all being said, I would love to kick this off with just you telling us a little bit about who you are, obviously as related to your grief, but also just any fun facts outside of your grief, because we're all more than our losses as well. So whatever you're
Yeah,
comfortable sharing about yourself.
sure. So I am 36. I live in the Chicagoland area. I'm a high school Spanish teacher. I've been doing that since 2011. My husband used to be in the military, so we lived in Hawaii for 2 years.
Beautiful.
And yeah, I just love to travel. I've been to Spain a couple times, been to Ecuador, Mexico. I have been to Sicily, but I have never really explored on the main island of Italy. So we'll see if I ever get there again. But yeah, I feel overall like I'm just a happy-go-lucky person. Um, I love spending time with my girlfriends and my children and all that kind of stuff. And so I think that's why this past like year has been so hard, because as you know, grief just knocks the wind out of your sails and completely changes you as a person. And so it's been kind of hard navigating that, and then also getting back to who I feel like I am on the inside, like having to rediscover that person again.
Yeah. Well said. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that all being said, tell us a little bit more, again, whatever you're comfortable sharing about
Sure.
your journey of loss and grief. Tell us about your mom, give her a shout out,
Yeah.
her name, all the good things.
Yes. So my mom's name was Laura. She was also a high school teacher. She taught family and consumer science. So like fashion, foods, adult living, child development. Like I feel like all the fun classes that
I was going to
kids,
say that
the
sounds so
electives.
fun.
Yeah. And then she also did the costumes for the musical at her high school. So she was just like a very involved person. And yeah, her students loved her, not only just because of the classes that she taught, but just in general, like I feel like she had a very warm, welcoming space. And at her celebration of life, I had a big bag of like hundreds of letters that all of these former students had written to us to read about like how much she had an impact on their life. And that was something that for the first couple months that kind of got me through, because it just made me realize that one, my mom is always going to be around in some way because she touched the lives of so many people, but then also kind of gave me the motivation I needed to continue on in honor of her, because I just wanted to like almost, I don't want to say fill her shoes, but
Yeah.
man, she did so much for others, and I just feel like I can also try to do that as well. But yeah, so she unexpectedly passed away last summer. Actually, the last experience I had with her, and I think that this is just a crazy synchronicity, and I hate that saying like everything happens for a reason, because it irks me, because I'm like, what was the reason, But I do think for whatever reason it was her time to go, because I was pregnant. I was actually due today. Today's 7/7, right? Yeah, this was my due date originally. Last year. So last year, 7/7 was my due date. And it was last June. I was having early labor pains, and I didn't know what to do about it because I had COVID as well. So I called my doctor and let her know the situation. And so, we decided that I did need to go to the hospital. And I was very concerned because I heard all of these horror stories of women going into labor with COVID and like being separated or having to wear masks and, all of these things.
Yeah.
And so I did ask my doctor point blank, I'm like, is this really going to affect my experience? And she was like, no, I think it'll be fine. Like your husband will be with you, no big deal. And then on the way to the hospital, she called me back and she said, actually, I spoke with, I don't know who, the manager or whatever. Yeah. And she said, your husband in the beginning will not be able to accompany you. So you're going to come in, get checked in. We are going to verify that you are in fact in labor, because like it was a month early.
Right.
And once we know that you are going to be having that baby within the next couple of hours, then we'll have him come up. And so, I was like, okay, sure, that sounds good. And once I'm up there for like 2 hours by myself, I'm like, so when's my husband able to come up? They're like, yeah, he's not. And I was like, what? Like, are you kidding me?
That
And
is
they're
so
like,
true.
yeah. They're like, yeah, because he also has COVID. Um, he's not allowed in. And I was like, I felt like I was swindled. I was like, wait, you guys like got me here, got me upstairs, and then my
Yeah.
husband can't be here. And at the time we were just like angry or devastated. We were frustrated, like all of the emotions. And so my husband called my mom, and she was able to be there for me. I ended up having a C-section in the operating room. She recognized one of the nurses that was one of her former students. And I'm like, of course, because that's the type of person that my mom was. She just, anywhere we went, she knew somebody, you know? And yeah, just at the time, I was frustrated. I was mad because my husband wasn't there. Looking back, I never would have thought like, oh, that's going to be the last experience I have with my mom is her being in the hospital with me, welcoming my newest daughter. Um, and so anyway, I had the baby, and because of all this COVID protocol, I wasn't even like allowed to hold my baby. Like they took her away and she was separated from me for like 10 days. And I'm in like the recovery room with my mom and we're just like talking, and she was set to go on her trip within like 2 or 3 days. And she's like, Kara, like, I don't want you to be here alone. Like, if they're not going to let Mike in, so I can call the travel company and I can see if I can just meet everyone in Rome, like miss the first couple of days because they started in Naples.
Okay.
And like, I can skip the first couple days. Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, let's just see in the morning how it goes. So then the next day, my husband tests negative, and they're like, oh yeah, he can come up now, like no big deal.
Thanks.
Now, like another thing that like was crazy to me is like now thinking back, they never even like formally tested him to see if he had it. They just like took our word for it. They're like, oh, like, well, the mom has COVID, so obviously like he has COVID too. So I don't know. The whole thing was just so wild. They never tested my mom. Like it's just bizarre.
Those early days of COVID were just like the wild, wild west of everything.
Yes, like everyone just like made up rules as they went. It was like this makes no
Seriously.
sense.
Oh
Anyway, so yeah, my husband was able to come up. He was chilling with me and my mom. We're all just talking. And I was like, well, mom, now you can go on your trip on time, go to the first place that you were planning on going. Because this was a trip that she had planned with a bunch of friends and like my dad, and it's like 30 people. So I was like, yeah, just go, mom, go have fun. Like when you come back in 2 weeks, we need a babysitter. Like, let's go. And she walked out, and like, man, I still like have that picture in my head of her like leaving, and it's the worst. It's the hardest thing ever because I never thought that was going to be the case. But yeah, so we're in the hospital. After a couple of days, they did finally let us into the nursery to see the baby. And so I did have like a couple of text message exchange with my mom, like sending her pictures of me like holding the baby. And my mom's like, oh my God, like I love you guys. She's so perfect. And when they got to Italy, my dad had texted me from my mom's phone and was telling me that my mom had a really rough flight. She wasn't feeling well. She's just going to kind of hang out in the room for the first day and just like rest. And he said that when they came back from dinner, like the group, my mom was just like not doing well. And they didn't know what to do because like her hands were like clammy and changing colors, and like, I think we need to like maybe get a doctor up here. And so then there was like this whole issue with like there being a language barrier and not like being able to like convey that there's like a sense of urgency. So finally they did call an ambulance, but it took like 45 minutes. And by then, like it was just too late. So yeah, my dad called me in the morning and like let me know. And I'm like literally in the nursery with my new baby. And he's like letting me know this. And I'm like, is this a sick joke? Like what the actual F?
We can swear here if you need.
Okay. This is a safe swearing space. Yeah. Like what the fuck? Like what is happening? Yeah, it just completely pulled the rug out from under me. Like I never in a million years would have ever pictured those two things. Like
right.
and the Venn diagram like crossing. It's like, wait a second, like that's not supposed to happen,
The math isn't mathing. Like,
no, absolutely not. So yeah. Just dealing with, I already had my first daughter. She was a year and a half.
Mhm.
So dealing with like having a daughter at home that I'm still at the hospital with my newborn, and I'm postpartum, like
Yeah.
my emotions are everywhere because like that's a thing. Like when you have a baby, literally like you cry for no reason. And so then cool, now let's throw in the fact that your mom just died, and just yeah, it was like earth shattering. Worst experience ever.
Yeah,
So
that probably doesn't even begin to cover it.
yeah.
I mean,
So
like,
that's
I
the
knew,
abbreviated story.
no, I was gonna say, if anything, I knew kind of your abbreviated story, if you will, just from again, like things you post and things like that. But that level of I mean, I don't
Yeah.
even know where to start. I mean, my mouth was like open most of that. Those who can't see, that is just so shocking. So, I mean, again, I don't want to pry here too much, but do they
Yeah.
know like what the health issue was? Like, was it COVID?
No, I don't think so.
They just kind of don't know.
We honestly do not completely know. I think at the time,
Wild.
like my dad didn't even think to ask for an autopsy because like he was in a foreign country and like just everything like just happened, and the tour company kind of took care of a lot of the details for him. But
Okay.
we think because she had this like really long nagging cough for like a month and a half, and her doctors had diagnosed her with walking bronchitis, but like
Yeah.
that's like just something you take like an antibiotic for, I think, and it like kind of goes away. So,
Yeah.
but we think because she was coughing so much that it could have maybe been like a pulmonary embolism or something. I don't know. But my dad did say at the end like she was like coughing up blood. So I don't know. I don't know. But I have a feeling that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's something
That
that
must
tells me
be
is what it is.
so unsettling, like not really knowing or only kind of having an idea, like, oh, that just makes me so sad. I'm so sorry. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
thank you. I know. It's crazy. I think too, like for me, that's something that haunts me is like her getting worried and being like, no, you need to call somebody now. And like
Mm.
what kills me is like her thinking like, oh my God, like, am I gonna see my kids again? Or am I gonna see am I gonna see my grandkids again? Like that part, like, ooh, I like just hope that that's not something that like she was thinking in the last minutes, because
Yeah.
ugh,
Just
can't
can't
take
even
that.
to
Yeah.
fathom or stand to think something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine just logistically. I swear it's like the logistics of everything that happens like after we lose somebody is also just brutal and complicated and exhausting in and of itself. So like
Yeah.
like in my case, having to go through the probate process and just all these things with both they don't teach you this in school, right? So I can't imagine also, going through all of this and then this all takes place in another country. So like you don't have to go into a lot of detail, but like, was that complicated having to?
So yes, because my dad had to order like all of these death certificates, which I guess he had to order through the consulate. And yeah, I think my dad is the one that's dealing with like most of that kind of stuff. But because they were on this trip, it was 2 weeks, and this happened on like day 2.
Yeah, yeah.
They all decided as a group, because my mom had planned this trip for them, that they were going to finish it like in her honor. And that is a whole other experience within itself. Like my dad is like currently in the process of writing something about that, just because that experience was extremely like cathartic for everyone. They felt like in a weird way my mom was still with them, like they got signs
Oh my
from her
gosh.
and things like that.
Biggest right now.
So yeah, it was just a weird thing because my brother and I are still at home, like in Illinois, like waiting for them to come back. And
you're like, excuse me.
it's just weird in my head thinking like, oh, she's just on vacation. And it's like, no, like my mom is coming back cremated in a box. Like this is wild to me. You know what I mean? Like just crazy. So, yeah.
Like we have these vision or like, I feel like sometimes when it's so surreal, a death or something, we sort of like jokingly or maybe not even jokingly are like, oh, it's weird. I just feel like they're gone for a little while, or they're out at the grocery store, or they're on vacation. And you're just like, no, yours was quite literally on vacation.
Literally.
And it's horrible because you would not going on a vacation and having something like that happen. Like that's just not supposed to happen on a vacation like that. So I can't even begin to imagine grappling with something like that and
Yeah.
go have a brand new daughter on top of it. Like
Yeah.
absolute
Yeah.
hell. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Tummy time and funeral planning. That's what we did.
It's so twisted.
I'm pro dark humor, so
Oh yes. Oh my God. Same, but good Lord. Like it's awful. So natural transition, but
yes.
because how do you even transition away from that? But I mean, first of all, I definitely want to hear like how the last year or so has been for you. But obviously, a big part of this conversation is to talk about how you've created gains from your losses, so to speak. And I definitely want to talk about the Legacy Letters Journal that you created. So just walk me through a little bit about like just what it was like mourning her and how you got through, I guess I say that very lightly, those first like whatever it is, several months. And then when did this journal come to you and how did you create it and just design it, all the things, because it's so, again, so beautifully done, but it truly is not like any other journal I've seen before where you write down memories of your loved ones or whatever, whatever the prompt is. And I just think it's so cool. So walk me through that.
Sure. So, man, the grief process was wild because, I had lost people in the past, but not like in this way, like
right. Such a
this being
massive
so
capacity.
sudden.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was just like little stages as well. Like there was this like month-long pause in between when she died and then when we actually had like her celebration of life, because we had to wait for like everyone to get home and then we had to plan and whatever.
Yeah.
So like that occurred almost like a month and a half after she died. And then I was still on maternity leave for like the beginning part of the school year. And so like when I finally went back to school, I feel like that's truly in a great way, that's when it hit me the most. I'm like, cool, like I have all of these students that normally I pride myself on like creating and fostering this classroom that I'm like emotionally available for them. And I'm like, I am not emotionally available for anyone right now.
Right.
So that was definitely for me, one of the toughest parts was going back to work.
My God.
And I don't know. I think there's still this stigma, and part of me fights with my past self about how I handled it because I didn't really let my students know what was going on. And, I feel like there's like this fine line of like professionalism and like keeping things private and things like that. But at the same time, I think it's also important that they see someone in front of them that's like a human, right? And like leading by example. Like if I want them to be these humans that are empathetic and caring and able to express emotion, like I should be able to do that too.
Have you heard about my brand new Losses Become Gains daily journal? I am so proud to announce you can now get your hands on it exclusively on Amazon. But trust me, you don't have to be someone who's grieving or someone who has gone through a loss to use and enjoy this journal. For over a year, I knew I wanted to create a beautiful daily practice in the form of a journal that wouldn't take you a super long time to complete, but will add so much value and perspective to your day, no matter what season of life that you're in. The prompts are specifically designed for people going through loss by someone who has also gone through loss, but it's just general enough for anyone to use and asks the important questions that, at least for grievers, I know for a fact that they need to have in front of them each and every day. It's a daily prompt with a separate page for writing more thoughts if more comes up for you. There are 6 months worth of prompts in this journal, so you can really see your growth and progress right before your eyes. It helps you get to the root of how you're actually doing and what you need to focus on in your healing journey or daily life overall. And it comes in 3 ocean-inspired colors: Like the ocean, I want this journal to empower you to let it flow, allow yourself to really dig deep and go beyond the surface of your grief or whatever hardships are coming your way, and really feel the healing, growth, and evolution that I know you are so capable of. And all in just a matter of minutes per day, that will become a welcome part of your routine. I have no doubt. Type in Losses Become Gains on Amazon and be sure to scroll down to find all three colors or click the link in the show notes for details. Pick up your copy of the journal today or as a gift for someone who could use it.
I think as the year went on, I slowly kind of opened up a little bit more about it. Or if like someone asked, I would explain. But it wasn't until like the very end of the year that I like laid it all out on the table for them. And it was like a letter I wrote for my students. And the ones that actually took the time to read it, I feel like it really made an impact on them. And some of the things that they wrote back were beyond beautiful. Mm-hmm. And then there was other kids that just probably
just kind of went over their head a little bit. Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it was a very long and interesting road of ups and downs. Mm-hmm. And also something as grievers that we need to be better about is like not judging our emotions. Cause I feel like there were so many times where I'm sitting here like hanging out with my daughters and like watching them just how beautiful and wonderful they are. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I still have so much to be grateful for. Yeah. But I still couldn't be on that bandwagon. Like I was still like in my pity party phase of like, oh, this sucks, but my mom's not here and she doesn't get to see this. And yeah, I think I just needed to be a little bit more patient with myself and be like, it's okay that I'm feeling those feelings. And so I have been working on trying to compartmentalize a little bit and like maybe like journaling or talking or venting about that feeling of the pity party, get it out, and then trying to move on with my day and still try to like find the joy, because that's what life is about. And I know that that's what my mom would want. But yeah, so the journal, I guess, started initially right after my mom died. I remember having this feeling of like, oh my gosh, like panic. My daughters one day will feel this way, like when I die. And I'm like, oh my God, like I better be like an old lady in like hospice or something. Right. And I get to tell them like all the things that I want to say, because my mom just like, boop, like abrupt, like no conversations. It was just over. Yeah. And I felt like there was like conversations we didn't get to have. Like the last 2 years, we were kind of like bickering and in a weird funk, which was like not representative of our entire relationship as a whole. And so I feel like there was just a lot of things left unsaid. And that like bothered me. It really irked me. So I feel like throughout the couple months, there was many times where I was thinking of, this is a time I would call my mom, or this is something that I would normally go to my mom for. Mm-hmm. And, you know, at the same token, my husband, he also lost his mom like a year prior to me. So here we are, team like no grandma, which is also super fun. And yeah, he had this like similar sentiments, like, man, I wish that we had that recipe that my mom would always make for lasagna. Like I could go for that right now. And just, you know, all these things like we would normally go to our moms for. Right. So I was talking to my girlfriends about like, man, I kind of feel like I could create a journal of all of these conversations that people need to have with their offspring, with their grandchildren, with their nieces, their nephews, their friends, their husband, like whoever, you know, and like leave it all on the table, because you just never know. You never know. Yeah. So I guess that's kind of the purpose and like how it came to be, is because we have life insurance, right? Or we should. And we prepare for the end of life in other ways. Right. Why wouldn't we prepare for the end of life in terms of like our emotional wellness and well-being and that of others as well? So yeah.
I'm so here for that. It's so true. And, you know, it's so interesting. Like, I feel like regardless of whether or not, I think this is so much truer, of course, with people that pass suddenly or very unexpectedly. Like, I can't necessarily relate in that way. My parents had their like cancer journeys and things like that. I do feel like I got to have a few more of those conversations with my dad than with my mom, because with my mom, there was so much trauma going on. Like, I don't know that she was in the mood to talk about those things and things like that. So it's so funny. It's like one of those things too that I know also like some couples or some people within couples like get uncomfortable about like setting
Mhm.
up a trust for their kids, or doing whatever, like estate planning, and all of that. And like a part of me is just like, sounds like just very blunt, but like, get over yourself. Like, we're all gonna die one day. That is
Yeah.
inevitable. Doesn't mean it's gonna be tomorrow, but better prepared than not, right? And if anybody out there has been left with uncertainty, or just there are so many things that come up after somebody dies where you're just like, it happens to me all the time where I'm just like, damn, I wish I could ask them that question, or I wish like I could remember this exact story. And it's stressful too, like, and I'm an only child, so I'm just like, oh my gosh, if I don't remember these things, is anybody else going to remember them, or am I remembering them correctly? And you start like almost second guessing yourself. And so it's just like, wouldn't you rather do this all sort of ahead of time when a death is perhaps not looming, or at least it's not
Yeah.
so suddenly happening right in front of you, that just almost like just take advantage of it, like, and create beautiful memories in the process of doing it. And that's what I love about your journal too, is it's like, dare I say, a fun way to do it. Like, it's such a happy journal too. And just like some of the things that are prompted in there are, yeah, they could be kind of deep, or you could like dig deep to answer some of the questions, but the way it's laid out is so like, it just makes it a beautiful experience and fun. And
Hmm.
something that, yeah, at the end of the day might be because we are ultimately going to lose somebody at the end of the day, but like, again, better to do that either one before it's too late and you can't anymore, or two, when things are happening, i.e., a cancer journey or whatever this looks like, and maybe they don't want to, or it's like too difficult to think about then, and whatever the situation is. So, yeah, it's so true. So, how did you come up with some of the prompts and like the design? I just want to talk about like
Yeah.
the journal itself for a second, because it's so
So
cute.
for me as a teacher, like it was just so easy and quick to do just because that's like kind of the types of things that I do for like my lessons. And
Right.
um a lot of times if we have like an overarching theme or an overarching topic, like I do like to break it down into like manageable bite-sized pieces,
Yeah.
just like how that is, like there's sections of or themes, but then it's broken down into like individual prompts. So yeah, I guess for me, I think about where are people going to get stuck and how can I make it smaller?
Oh, I love
That
that.
was, yeah. So that's kind of my backwards design brain working. And I would say the majority of them came to be during times when, again, like I really missed my mom, or I would rely or call my mom, or I would crave to hear
Yeah.
something from my mom. And that's kind of where it like came from. And then I asked my husband for like, can you have any other ideas that you could add to this? And then just in general, like I asked a couple of my girlfriends, because a lot of us are like in this new motherhood phase where we're all kind of like lovey-dovey, mushy and emotional and like watching our kids grow. And I was like, what are some things that you would want like
Yes.
indefinitely for your kids to grow up with? And that's another way to look at it too, is that it doesn't necessarily have to be like death related, right? Like you
Right.
could buy this and fill it out and give it to them as like a graduation gift, like fill it out for a child while they're growing up. And then like when they go to college or as they move out or whatever, it's like, here are my words that will forever be with you. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't have to be like this doom and
Like
gloom
morbid. Yeah.
thing. So I don't know. I think it's more about like life than anything else. It's just like celebrating life and who people are.
Yeah. Your legacy, right?
Yeah, your legacy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I want to talk about, just again, sort of back to the grief journey a little bit.
Mhm.
What is something about your loss that you found either to be the most difficult, or like something that you maybe feel like you weren't warned enough about? And why does that come up for you? And I love asking this question because I feel like, people can kind of probably guess, like, yeah, grief is hard. Being without our person, yeah, that's freaking hard. But I feel like there's so many little nuances in the grief process that happen that we might go like, damn, I was ill prepared for this. Like nobody talks about this enough and nobody warns it. And I know you kind of touched on some of these things already. So if there's anything else you want to add, just.
I think it caught me by surprise how much your brain is flooded with just all of the information at all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I will be driving down the road. I'll be like, oh, like that car reminds me of my mom. And oh, like that license plate is this number. And like that somehow relates. Like it just,
Yeah.
you find all of these like little things that somehow connect back to your grief. And it's just wild to me how your brain does that. Like everything is a trigger in a weird way for a while, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like you are not prepared for how much it is on your brain. Like that's a tab that is always open.
Yes. Oh, that's a good way to put it. I love that
Like
analogy. Yes.
always open.
Tab that refuses to close.
Yes. And so I was not prepared for that because
great point.
Like the year before, like a year and a half before, I lost my grandma. But like at this, I don't want to say it wasn't as hard because, you know, that's like making it seem like I love my grandma less, but
it hits different when it's a mom.
It hits different when it's a mom. And also like my grandma, she was older and I feel like it somehow makes sense when people are in a advanced age state.
It does.
Like,
I know that feels like
of life.
Slimy to say, but no, it's true. It's I hate to say it this way too, but it's like I feel like it's to be expected. You know what I mean? It's like you said, it's the circle of life. And I think that's why like a lot of people I think would argue like child loss is probably the like I'm not gonna say the worst, but it's like it's probably the worst, honestly.
Like,
because it is.
We don't have to like put qualifiers on it, but it's just
right, not to compare, but my God, I mean, it's
so,
out of like the natural order of life. Yeah, let's put it that
way. Yes. Like I just feel like my mom had so much life to live. My dad had just retired. She was gonna retire in 2 years, you know, and it's just like, dang, like that sucks. So yeah,
just a little bit.
Having that tab open all the time. That's what I was not prepared for.
Yep.
Not prepared for that.
Such a good point.
Yeah.
So with that being said, for anyone listening here who is in the throes of grief right now and are super struggling, or honestly, because I get a lot of people that are like, I lost my person 3, 4, 8, 10 years ago, and I am still struggling. I still feel stuck, whatever it is. What are maybe like 2 or 3 tips or pieces of guidance that you would give to someone going through really any stage of grief, but if there's one more than the other that kind of resonates with you, just what has helped you?
I think for me, the biggest thing is finding other people who are in a similar situation as me.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's why I started following your page. I was like, okay, this girl, I feel like I see myself in her. She's young, she's cool, she's fun. And she also had some really shitty things happen to her, yet she's still searching for joy in life. And I'm like, wow, relatable. I can see myself.
Yeah.
So I feel like for me, seeing other people go through it and still living is super important. And also finding people that just like get it, because there are some people who are it's a fact, they're going to shy away from interacting with you. And it's not because like they don't want to talk to you or they don't want to be around you. It's more that they are uncomfortable with what happened to you. And like for whatever reason, maybe they think that like it's contagious. Like, oh, like if I spend too much time with Kara, like maybe someone close to me will die, or I don't know. But like I feel like, you know, I have had some people just like drop off. And then I've also had people just come in closer. So like embrace the people that are coming in closer and just find people who get it and just talk to them, be honest about how you're feeling. And I would say still find ways to incorporate them in your life as much as you can. Like not in a way that it's like creepy or where you're like bringing around like a stuffed doll of like your dead mom or whatever, but like, you know, do things to honor them and still make them part of your conversation, because that's how you keep their spirit alive, you know? And so I think for me, those have been some things that have been helpful.
I love that. It's so true. And I feel like there are people I think that they're out of fear of triggering us, they don't want to talk about them or they don't want to ask. Like, this is literally, my husband and I just did an episode together. And this was one of the things that came up is like, and this is where a lot of our communication breakdown happened. And this is like with a significant other, but if these are like acquaintances or friends, it's not someone as close to you. It's very easy to kind of lose people that way, where you don't have to like really confront them every day. And you're just like, excuse me, like, why aren't you asking? And so he was saying like, I didn't want to ask because I didn't want to upset or trigger you. But meanwhile, I'm like, why are you pretending nothing's happening? Like, and it's this really delicate balance of just trying to find a happy medium. And I think that's what is so great about, I think that's one of both of our many goals is normalizing it and talking about it. And yeah, grief sucks. Yeah, grief is really hard. Losing our people are really hard. But if it's something that is ultimately inevitable and we're all going to go through it, like we can have some dark humor with it. We can have, again, I use the term fun loosely, but we can, smile and laugh about it. And that camaraderie and that grief club, so to speak, there's a lot of us here.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
And so there's no reason, I'm not going to say there's no reason to feel stuck, but to feel like there's no hope or that there's no, I'm not going to say getting past it. There's no really like getting past losing our people per se, but there are healthy mindset shifts that can come with time, with getting acclimated to things. I love that you brought up triggers because I think triggers are some of the most devastating and exhausting parts of it on a daily basis, is just like trying to cope with those, trying to figure those out. God forbid you're at work or in a public place and something happens. We've talked about this on this podcast before, but like, it's brutal. And especially in those early days in that acute grief. So amazing tips and great guidance. And I think for anybody here listening that is maybe in those earlier stages or in that acute grief and you just cannot see the light right now, and this might not totally be resonating, like, again, you're just a year out. Like that is not long. And I'm 3.5-ish at this time. But like, it's so interesting because I think the more you go through life too, it's not just the grieving initially, like you can grieve again and again. And like for you who has children, and we hope to have children one day too, it's just like you're also now grieving like your mom not being a part of your life in that way. And that presents a whole nother set of complications and challenges, just another thing to have to get used to that you don't know about until you go through it. So we just have to welcome it into our lives just like a little bit. And so I think that's great advice for people at least to noodle on today, if nothing else. So all right. So that all being said, we can start to wrap this up, but I definitely want to hear from you because again, I think you just have such a beautiful mindset around what you do and grief and everything. And I have to say, especially for someone who, again, is like a year out, because I know the year people always say is kind of like the hardest. What does finding gains from your losses, so to speak, mean to you?
So I really think it's all about taking the time to like acknowledge what you're going through, but then also finding the courage to still find the joy in life, because in the beginning you feel wrong. You have the ick about smiling again. And that is something I wish that we could just get rid of for everybody.
Oh my God, thank you for saying that.
I know that's not what my mom would want. Like my mom was like the happiest, like goofiest, sassiest person on the planet. She would not want for this to take away anything from my life. Like she would be like, go out and just live your life. And so yes, like it just having that courage to continue on with joy the best that you can, bring them with you. And just also acknowledging that you are becoming so, I don't know, much more well-rounded. Like you're gaining so much knowledge on how to help and be around others that are going through a similar situation. You're so much more empathetic. Like I hate that like we've had to lose people in order to gain all of these things, but you gain so much. And so I don't like saying I'm thankful for it because that's weird, but I do like to acknowledge that, yes, like I have grown as a person. And I think that that's what it's all about, you know?
That's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, what else are you supposed to do, right? Like we can stay stuck and we can stay stuck in the past or the what ifs or if only statements or, you know, like what was, but we can't go back and change our circumstances. Like that freaking sucks.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a really unfair deck of cards we're dealt sometimes, but it is totally all what you make of it. And I will just say that you've done an amazing job with that and in such a creative and fun way. So where can everybody get the Legacy Letters Journal? Where can they find you on social? All the things.
Yes. So right now I'm exclusively on Amazon. However, I'm really trying to plug independent bookstores. So any independent bookstores, if you are looking for a super fun guided journal, I'm your girl.
Yes.
I'd rather them get money than, you know,
totally.
the big dogs. But yeah, so on Amazon. And then my Instagram is at Legacy Letters Journal. And then I also have a website, legacylettersjournal.com. So yeah, I just have some things in the works, but right now that's the biggest thing on my plate. So
exciting. I'm excited to see what else you have.
I know, me too. I'm like so curious what you were unboxing the other day. I'm like, ooh.
I swear to God, once you get started in this space, like you can't stop. You're just, there's constantly more ways that you're getting inspired to help and create and all the things. And for us creative types, yeah, I know we can't help ourselves. So it's super fun.
That's how I feel.
Totally. I can relate to that. Well, all of your links and everything will be in the show notes, just so everyone knows. So definitely go check her out, give her a follow, get this journal seriously for yourself. It makes an amazing gift too. Honestly, like I could totally see this on like really any day, but I think it's really sweet maybe on like Mother's or Father's Day or like, dare I say, a birthday, maybe even a death anniversary to actually like acknowledge the person. Like, and again, I encourage people like, it's sweet. There are a few friends still who will like text me on the day that my dad or mom died. And they're just like, hey, I'm just thinking about you today. You know, it's just those little things. So, and I think this is just such a beautiful tool that you've created that so many people will get so much, you know, use and joy and value of. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really think it's going to resonate with so many people, just like, again, even if not the exact, you know, death, just like everything that happens around it, especially the complexities of having a family and kids and a job and everything on top of it. Don't know how you did it or continue to do it, but you're doing an amazing job. So I'm so grateful for you coming on today. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
I am sending you a huge thank you for tuning into today's episode, my friend. I'm so grateful you're here and for the steps that you're taking to heal your heart, open your mind, fulfill your soul, to learn, grow, and evolve, and move through this crazy thing called life in big, beautiful, impactful ways. Visit lossesbecomegains.com for my blog and for more coping tools. Explore my Grief Becomes Gains online course if you need some extra grief support and coaching. And be sure you're following along on Instagram and Facebook at Losses Become Gains podcast. I love seeing new faces, meeting new people, hearing your story, and supporting you however I can. And remember to always keep asking yourself, how will I turn my losses into gains today? I'll catch you in the next episode.